Donald Trump just finished up a rally that he was having in Michigan today, and this one in particular was just so strange. Very weird conspiracy theories, very weird lies being pushed. You know, the weird label that has been given to Donald Trump and JD Vance was very applicable today. So, I have some clips from this rally to show you. We'll talk about it a little bit, but let's just get right into it. So, the first clip I want to show you actually comes from RFK Jr., who is in Michigan today campaigning for Donald Trump, and we all know him to be a very peculiar individual, to put it nicely. So let's take a look at what he had to say.
Well, the Democratic Party spent tens of millions of dollars to defame me, to publish perjuries against me, to publish fake news against me, to marginalize me, to make me look like a crazy person.
See, you know, this is one of the most frustrating things about MAGA and Trump's movement. Everybody is a victim. They victimize themselves. RFK Jr. saying, oh, the Democratic Party spent so much money to make me look bad and make me look weird and to ostracize me. You did it to yourself. This is a guy who placed a bear cub carcass in Central Park in New York City. He cut off a whale's head and brought it home with him. His brain was eaten by a worm. And when he was asked about a sexual assault allegation against him, he said, I'm no church boy. What? What? You did it to yourself. You did it to yourself. You cannot claim to be ostracized by this group of people and this group targeted you when you, in fact, are just a bad person. You yourself did it to you. Nobody else. You. What's wrong with this guy? They all claim to be victims. And we know this of Donald Trump, who always says, I'm being targeted. This person's being mean to me. This person's being unfair. That's Donald Trump's motto, right? Practically. And RFK Jr. has now picked up the torch and he's running alongside Donald Trump doing the same thing, saying he's the victim here. Give me a break. Now, listen, Donald Trump came out, started speaking, and this moment is just a beautiful moment of irony because it just went right over Donald Trump's head. He doesn't even recognize the irony of what he's saying right here. Just take a look.
Guarantee of your own nation, and that's what she's done. She's ruined our nation. She's ruined our nation. And, you know, I've always talked about this, and I've talked about it strongly, but I'm just realizing as I'm talking right now, and not even going off a teleprompter, because the teleprompter's not tough enough, I'm saying, and by the way, isn't it nice to have a president that doesn't need a teleprompter?
You hear that? You hear that applause that line just got Donald Trump from his followers? They just like genuinely, and I can't really put this much nicer, they mindlessly clap to whatever Donald Trump says. So a couple of things here. Number one, the irony is that he's saying he doesn't need a teleprompter. Here's a screenshot on your screen right now from that exact same clip of Donald Trump staring at the teleprompter and reading off of it. He does this all of the time. At every single speech he has a teleprompter. Now, he's criticizing Kamala Harris, Joe Biden, Tim Walz, whoever it might be, for having teleprompters. Look, none of these people need teleprompters. They don't need it, but it's good to have prepared remarks. Any good speaker in history has prepared remarks, and thus you can hit on the points you want to talk about and sound professional doing it. Because if you don't have a teleprompter and you just go off script and ramble, you get speeches like Donald Trump's, where he's talking about fictional characters like Hannibal Lecter, where he's talking about boats sinking, where he's talking about utter nonsense. That's what you get when you're not prepared and you don't have prepared remarks. Now, Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, Tim Walz, all of these folks can do that and not sound crazy, but Donald Trump is incapable of that. So maybe he would be better served if he had a teleprompter in front of him and actually read from it all the time, like he's doing right there in this picture. It's just so funny that he's criticizing people for having a teleprompter when there's two in front of him, one on his left, one on his right. Absurd. Absurd. Anyway, the next clip I want to show you is him going after Nancy Pelosi again. In his speech yesterday, he called for her prosecution, and now he's doing it again. Second day in a row, he's calling for Nancy Pelosi to be prosecuted. I don't know what this is all about. Let's take a look.
Nuts. By the way, did you see yesterday, 2 days ago? So I'm not much into this stuff, but Visa crashed because the government went after. The government filed a big suit against Visa. Nancy and her husband sold their stock the day before it was announced. Nancy Pelosi. So why don't we get some AG somewhere like in a Republican territory? And why don't we get them to do a little investigation?
Okay, so he's quite literally and very openly and very proudly calling for the prosecution of his political opponents. Nancy Pelosi doesn't control any of her trades. Donald Trump will always leave out this fact, but Nancy Pelosi doesn't control any of them. She hasn't for her entire career in Congress. She does not control her trades. So I don't know what he's trying to suggest here, maybe like insider trading or something, and fraud, which is, by the way, something that Donald Trump has been found liable for. It's just ironic. But Nancy Pelosi doesn't control her trades, but he's very much openly just saying, yeah, like, no, I want a Republican attorney general or a Republican prosecutor in a Republican area to just go after Nancy Pelosi. He's not trying to hide it anymore. You know, previously he was like, well, you know, maybe I wouldn't go after my political opponents. Now he's just openly saying, yeah, no, I'm going to. And whether you like it or not, I will. That's incredibly concerning. And if you're a Democrat, Republican, Independent, wherever you might be on the political spectrum, this should worry you. The fact that he's just openly calling for his political opponents to be prosecuted. And this is not even the only time he did this today. This is the second time he called for political opponents to be prosecuted and suggested that he would be involved in that prosecution. Because earlier today, he posted this on Truth Social saying that he's going after Google. He said, quote, "It has been determined that Google has illegally used a system of only revealing and displaying bad stories about Donald J. Trump, some made up for this purpose, while at the same time only revealing good stories about Kamala Harris. This is an illegal activity, and hopefully the Justice Department will criminally prosecute them for blatant interference of elections. If not, and subject to the laws of our country, I will request their prosecution at the maximum levels when I win the election and become president." What? Okay, this is so crazy. Not only is this just delusional, right? Just utterly delusional. Again, he's victimizing himself, saying Google's coming after me. They're suppressing good stories about me. They're only uplifting good stories about Kamala Harris. Of course, that's not true. That's not a thing that's happening. He's just, again, making it up in his little tiny brain. But he's now suggesting that Google should be prosecuted for something that's not actually happening, and then even went a step further and said that if he becomes president, he will prosecute them, and he will, quote, suggest or call for their prosecution. He will request their prosecution is the word that he used. He will request their prosecution. Normally, presidents don't do that. Normally, presidents don't request for any person or entity or company to be prosecuted. Normally, that is a decision made by the Department of Justice that is independent from the White House. Now, Donald Trump is saying, screw that. If I win, I will order my attorney general, who's going to be some loyalist to him, probably like Marjorie Taylor Greene, right? Some loyalist to go after Google. And whether there's actual evidence of a crime or not, he will do it anyway. This should concern everybody. Twice in one day, he's calling for the prosecution of people who he wants to go after. It's gross. It's gross. Now, to top this all off, the final clip I want to show you is just Donald Trump slurring his words during this speech, just having no idea what's going on around him. Let's take a look.
Biden disaster, it's no longer an administration, because what they've done to our country with this is inexcusable. I guess some egghead maybe said, oh, it's wonderful to release people, and it sounds so nice. We're releasing migrants into our country. But these are killers. These are people at the highest level of killing that cut your throat, and they won't even think about it the next morning.
Yeah, so if you didn't know any better, you'd say that Donald Trump is tanked right here, that he's too many drinks deep. He sounds like he's like legitimately under the influence. He sounds like you're at Thanksgiving, your crazy uncle that you don't really like showed up, and he had too much to drink automatically. The turkey isn't even out of the oven, right? The stuffing's not even there. You're kind of sitting at the table waiting for the meal to be ready. The food's not out, and you have your uncle on the other side of the table going, rambling and slurring his words and making up crap on the go. That's what Donald Trump sounds like right there. You're like, please, can he leave? Oh, God, please, can he leave? That's what watching that clip and these other ones we just watched reminds me of. But we have this amazing opportunity this November to make the crazy uncle leave. So let's use our voices, use our vote, and make sure that this guy, the crazy uncle of America, gets out. So that was Donald Trump's rally in Michigan. Disappointment after disappointment, insane lie after insane lie, conspiracy theory after conspiracy theory. It's the usual playbook for Donald Trump at these campaign events these days. Nothing new. Nothing different from Donald Trump. He's just kind of like crawling his way to the finish line, hoping that he wins enough votes. While Kamala Harris is out there actually today, right now, at the border, talking about immigration policy that she would propose in a Harris administration. So you can kind of see the difference in what these candidates are doing. Harris is out there working. Donald Trump is doing whatever the hell that was. So anyway, I will leave the video there. Just wanted to show you some of these clips. I appreciate you being here. Make sure to subscribe to the channel down below. It really helps, goes a really long way. Also drop a like on the video and comment. Let me know what you think about all this. I'm excited to hear from you. And as I always say, I greatly appreciate you, and I hope you have an amazing rest of your day.